is John Warren, publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper, coming to you with our program from the desk of the editor. We'd like to remind you that the Voice and Viewpoint is San Diego's oldest African-American publication. In print, we're in 89 zip codes, 17 cities, unincorporated areas, but we're also online with newsletters and the paper itself. And we have a global reach in terms of that, with people throughout the country and around the world tuning in to read the paper. And each week, we follow them through our social analytics to see who they are. Tonight, we're going to have an open mic. There's so much going on. We're in the thralls of Black History Month, and we're going to remind people of how all of that came about. And so, in addition to that, we want you to know that with the open mic approach we're having, you may call if you have a question or comment, 858-251-6111. Or you can send a message to our godradio.com, and we can see it and put it up on the board and let people know what your thoughts are. This is a time where all of us should have some opinions about the things that are happening nationally, locally, budget-wise, people around us, folks checking out. It's just a whole bunch going on, and I hope that most of us are not just sitting back being spectators like, oh, this is like being at the movies, what's going to happen next? We need to get up and get involved. So to that note, I want to introduce and share with you our co-host, Dr. Leonard J. Thompson III, who is handling the controls and making all of this work as we partner with godradio.1. Dr. Thompson.
Well, good evening, everyone. Dr. Warren, as you can imagine, lots are going on and around the world. And like I said, it's so busy that we don't have time to stop all the time and get, 100% better. But we know one thing is that our work is never done until we go to sleep.
That's true.
Yes. So tonight, again, open mic approach. Again, if you want to call in and to talk about a subject, something that we're talking about, or something that you would like to introduce, again, remember that it is a statement, very brief, to the point, and then we can ask the question. Again, the number is 858-251-6111. And you can also go on GOD Radio 1's Facebook page as well as on YouTube page and put in questions there. Dr. Warren.
Okay, so tonight, this is our first program in the month of February. It's also a week away, a couple of days from our annual Voice and Viewpoint Gala, which will take place on Friday the 13th at Liberty Station from 6 to about 8 to 8:30 p.m. It's a dressy event. We're going to honor and recognize people in our community from a number of walks of life, and I think it is a classy event where one does not want to miss. But let me say that as we enter into February, we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of what started as Negro History Week by the late Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And then we went from Negro History Week to Negro History Month, and it's kind of ironic that it would be the shortest month in the year, but nevertheless, it is what it is. And Dr. Woodson spent a lot of his life in Washington, D.C. Matter of fact, it's so interesting that I attended Carter G. Woodson Junior High School, which was built and dedicated not long after his passing. And so Dr. Woodson was very concerned about our keeping up and knowing who we are in our history. Initially, he founded the Society for the Study of Negro Life and History, which is today has been renamed and expanded to be the Association for the Study and Culture of the Association for the African American, the Study and Culture of African American History. And so each year there's a theme that's selected that goes along with this. They still publish the Journal of Negro History. Some years ago, about 35 now, or 30 when my son was at Mount Airy, I made it a point of purchasing all of their Black history materials. Excuse me. It's like pepper or something. All of the Black history materials that they publish for the school so they could put the various people up on the wall and kids could see the drawings of who these individuals were. And so most of us go through life without even being aware of the contribution that we as a people have made to this country. And it's very significant. We have had over 103 or 4 African Americans receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. And there's one person in the book that received it twice. While we had the Masonic Order carrying over from the days of the Freemasons and the Templars and all of those things that we see when we look at National Treasure and study the country. Yet it was a black man named Prince Hall that established the first chapter of black Freemasonry. And it's so significant because when you look at a city like Washington, D.C., it was a black man by the name of Benjamin Banneker, a mathematician, who laid out that city. And that is very unique because Washington, D.C. is 10 square miles, and it is by design a district. It does not sit in any state because the founding fathers did not want any state to claim it as the capital. And so we got all of this history. If you look at the Capitol and the dome, there were black workers that put the statue on the very top, which is kind of a unique structure if you look at how that works. If you stand on the inside and look up, it's almost looking at an American version of the Sistine Chapel that Michelangelo painted. And if you ever watched the movie The Agony and the Ecstasy, you get some insight into the scaffolding and what it took to do that laying on his back. And so we've got tremendous history. You know, it was a black man named James Latimer that invented the traffic light and the air brake. It's a black man that invented the ice cream scoop and the use of salt to make ice cream so that it wasn't just the wealthy that could enjoy it. Today, we got Ben and Jerry, Baskin Robbins, and all these people benefiting from what was done by us. And we have just invented so many things, from the straightening comb to the ironing board, to how to repair shoes, to a clock or wristwatch. And it was a black man that was the first person to die in the Revolutionary War. His name was Crispus Attucks. And so this is a time that we look back at our history, which should reinforce us going forward, because we're the one people in this country that there's been a conspicuous absence to erase our association with our history. And the idea is, if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where the hell you're going. And so that's be designed. We noticed when the slaves were brought here, if they found 2 that spoke the same language, they separated them, sent them to different places. And so we got just so tremendous. And I'm hoping the Voice and Viewpoint acknowledges black history every week. We carry things on individuals, birth dates, contributions, things that people have done. All of this is just so crucial. And it's important. I'm excited, even in my family, to know that I'm a descendant of the first black man to serve in Congress from the state of North Carolina, who was also a very close friend of Frederick Douglass and followed Frederick Douglass as the recorder of deeds for Washington, D.C. And so this history is just there, and I'm going to carry us into all of this, Dr. Thompson, but I just wanted to give people enough of a touch of what we need to be thinking about, how important everything is, and how much now Trump has an effort to erase, discard, and remove us.
Yeah, and one of the sad things about it is that there's such a disdain for the history of this country, be it positive or negative, when it comes down to the African American, that even the slave memorial that was in Philadelphia, he had it removed and literally dismantled because he did not want any history to be there, anything on federal or state land.
And he tried to shut down the African American Museum.
Yeah.
He renamed the Kennedy Center, and now it's going to close because people are pulling this stuff out of it. Right here in San Diego, if you drive out to Campo, Campo was the last base for the Buffalo Soldiers that we celebrate. And Campo also has a train station there. It's a historic train museum, but it has an original, I want to call it segregation passenger car.
Uh-huh.
And this passenger car, that train makes a run out there through Campo. You can go out and you can ride the train and go through the trestle as it goes into Mexico and all of that. But that slave car, what was unique about it was that on most trains, if you try to go from one car to the next, you just open the door and you just walk across. This particular car had iron bars there
Yeah.
so that you couldn't go into the next car, and it was segregated. And this is so important because during World War II, when we had some German prisoners that were brought over here, we had black soldiers taking them to the South. The German prisoners who were white were allowed to ride with the white folks, but the black guards that were moving them were put in the segregated compartments.
Yeah.
And so we have all of this stuff going on, which is so, so crucial. And let us not forget George, the story of the black sleeping car porter and how the union was organized, and what they did to make it work. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just really important that, they say if you don't know your history, you don't know your greatness. And if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. And so it's so important that in this time in this season that we learn history, not only the history of African Americans, but history in general, and know the true story. But for us as African Americans, we have to fight very strongly to make sure that our history stays relevant and is relevant and not bypassed as a figment of people's imaginations. I believe that in anything, if you consistently say something over and over again, no matter how false it could be, people will begin to believe it because that's all they're hearing. And so we have to make sure that our voices are louder and more prominent and more directed than other people that want to be negative and this want to advance history. Again, our current leadership celebrated Hitler, and nobody wants to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? But, that was a horrible history in the world. But yet and still, his energy is that way, that there was some good with Hitler. And I'm like saying, come on now. But if you say it long enough and you say it in the right places, people will start believing it.
Well, most people don't know that Hitler got the blueprint for what he did in Germany from America, okay? Because he saw how we were treating people. And a lot of us still don't understand Jim Crow, segregation. We've gotten away from so much. And we have, even in San Diego, Dr. Thompson, 25, 30 years ago, we were doing a number of things in this city. We had the Encano Street Fair. We had rites of passage for young black men. And we had Saturday classes in school at our various churches. We had our churches like Bethel AME that opened up their auxiliary building for a place for people to sleep at night with men from the church standing guard over the people who were there. We had all of these residential things that were taking place. And this was before we did Gold Coast and the Black Chamber. And we just brought people here. And we had exciting times. The hotel that we had downtown was a hub for us in terms of black culture. Logan Heights and the lower part of Imperial Avenue going into downtown, black shops, store owners, and all kinds of things that were happening. And yet today, you can't find a black-owned gas station. You can't find a black-owned cleaners. You can't find really black-owned stores. You got a few black-owned carryouts that have been established. But the oldest institutions in our community have always been the church and the mortuary because they were strong. We have lost last year Anderson Ragsdale, a mortuary that was in business for 130 some years, gone, and all the culture and everything connected to it. And I might be wrong, but my surveys tell me that today the Voice and Viewpoint is the oldest for-profit African-American business in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I say for-profit because I'm not counting nonprofits, because nonprofits like the Urban League and those things that were established in the 50s is not the same thing as what we have been in terms of our culture and the people. And we're going to have a very stimulating announcement in the month of February about the paper
Yeah.
and some things that we're doing.
One of the things, Dr. Warren, I'm always very curious of is when we design zones or we design art districts and things of that nature. Um, how strategic are we about selecting the areas? Because our current Black Arts District, basically, there's no eateries down there. The lighting is bad. There's all these things that are not there. And I always say, well, what is the strategic plan to make it a desirable area? And was that the best area to put in it? Could they have moved it up to Imperial and Euclid? Could they have selected a different site that might have been more conducive to Black arts and culture? Do we move it all the way closer to ECC? You know, those are the kind of questions I ask as we move forward in the strategic plan. Not saying that the current Black and Arts Culture 9 blocks is not a great area, but there's so much that has to be done in that area to actually pull people and draw people to that area.
Well, you got to look at the history, and there are fewer and fewer of us left who've lived it and know the history. I mean, we had people like Eddie Edwards, 30 and 40 years ago, a gifted artist who did murals that were all up and down Imperial Avenue.
Yeah.
Those murals have disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them, can't find them. Downtown, across from 101 Ash Street, which is now a parking lot, we had Joyce Galahad, Galarosa's restaurant.
Yeah.
With beautiful Western African American painting murals on the building, inside and out, a place to go and eat. Food was great and the whole thing. Lost the lease. Next thing you know, it's just a parking lot. The building is gone, and all those things have been removed. So this is what we have experienced, a removal.
Yeah.
A removal. Let us not forget that where the garden is over there on Market Street, the Urban League had bought a building and was a community storefront walk-up where people could come in.
On both sides of the
Yes, and they went from that building to Gateway, which was a wise investment because the building that they got at Gateway, on the backside of it had a dialysis center, which was guaranteed income for them. And they did not keep the building up. They lost the building. Today they're at Fairmont University in a high-rise. You got to pay to park and catch the bus and go through all kind of changes to get there, and they're still not providing the kind of services that were being provided.
Yeah, and some of the things about it is that I always look at where we were back then and how we got to where we are now. Sometimes those things happen because of poor money management by previous administration, and some moves had to be made so that we would have a still yet viable urban league. My question I want to go back to is the Black Arts District. One of the anchors of the Black Arts District is Marie Whiteman Park. My question is, what is it going to take to literally reopen that park? Because that park to this day is still not open.
I thought it was open.
No, if you can't drive up in that park, you cannot take your car and take
Oh,
it
no,
down.
you can't take the car. You can walk across the bridge, I think, and
Bathrooms
walk
are
around
still
it. Yeah.
bathrooms are still in poor conditions.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the accessibility to it. And I'm wondering, when will we totally renovate that park and open it up?
Well-
Because that to me is a key part of the Black Arts District, and that should be a focal point. Because once you start getting people coming and doing things in that park, most of the things are on the front half, closer to the street, not really in the park.
Well, yeah, and then we lost the building that was the Girl and Boys Club, even though it's in the community and is doing some things. But, I would have to lay most of the blame for where we are at the foot of the 4th District City Council representative, all right? Because both the current one and the one before, I mean, they're so political, they should have been able to leverage getting that park done. If that park had been in La Jolla, if it had been for the SEALs up there where the pool is, it would have been taken care of. But our stuff has never been a real priority. And I got to blame the community in large part because, first of all, 90% of us don't vote because every time we have an election, the turnout is minuscule in terms of how people get elected. So that's a part of the issue right there. We don't vote. And so the powers that be, they don't make decisions based on what's right and wrong. They make decisions based on counting And if
Yeah.
I can't count too many folks and y'all not going to come out to vote, then it doesn't really make a big difference. So who the hell cares if a few of you get upset?
Yeah, and one of the things that I think that what you're bringing out is that everybody can point the finger and lay the blame at a lot of different feet. The reality comes in is that we're not seeing things move in our community because we have not stayed politically active or politically involved in creating our votes. If you become a power structure in your city and in your community where they know they have to deal with you because you are there, you are active, and you are present and visible, then that you're not easy to walk past. And I think right now, like you've said and many other people have said, we're at a critical time because there are budgets going on and everything like that. We don't ever, a lot of us don't get involved with that budget conversation until the budget hits us and we didn't know it was happening. By the time we get involved, it's already been done.
Well, 25 or 30 years ago, I kind of lose track of it. Um, the budget before the internet, the budget when it came up, uh, the public didn't get to see it. I fought to get the budget placed in every library so people could go to the library and pull it up and look at it.
Uh-huh.
And so that was the start of this thing. We still don't look at the budget the way we should. Years ago, when I held office in Washington, D.C., one of the things happened with the Board of Education was like a state board and a city and county board all combined. And we had a budget that the public couldn't understand. And I remember taking that budget and throwing everything out and rewriting it from scratch, uh, implementing what they call zero-based budgeting so that people could understand what was in it. And so we don't get involved until we lose something. Now, I'm going to tell you a big issue right now that we should be looking at. In Encanto, developers have bought that prime land that those two radio towers sit on.
Yeah.
People in the community say they want it to be a park. The reality is that the planning group approved the developer's purchase of the land. Now they're coming after the fact trying to stop the developer from building on it.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize that to a large degree, Encanto has that rural country look that the people there wanted. They didn't all want it to be jazzed up and everything. And so I was talking to someone today, and they were talking about how, well, the city council has to move to overturn the developer's purchase. I said, that's not going to happen. The only way the city council would probably do that to stop the developer would to implement a domain rights. Eminent domain, so they could go in and condemn it before and take it and say that it was in the interest of the public, because eminent domain says that the interest of the many, almost like Mr. Spock in Star Trek, outweighs the interests of the few. Okay? I don't see that happening. And I see the developer going along. I have seen evidence that some people got some money along the way to help make this whole thing happen. In all the years I've been here and had the paper, rarely have I ever seen a planning committee meeting that was overwhelmingly crowded with people that were concerned about an issue, or that we had taken the time to put the people on the committee that was representative of the community, rather than a few folks who understood the significance and chose and volunteered and went and got appointed to the committee. Big difference.
Yeah.
So we cannot have the kind of changes we need in government without being involved in government.
Yeah.
And if we don't understand it, we need to say, I don't know, somebody tell me, help me get the right understanding so I know what to do.
Yeah. And one of the things I think more than anything else is that we have to be proactive instead of reactive. A lot of times in the reactive states, we are not getting the outcomes because by the time we react, they have already put everything in place, and it's very hard to turn around. And again, not pointing the finger at anybody. This is a us thing. We are stronger together, but we as a people, we as a community, we as people that are concerned have to be more proactive than reactive.
Well, come on, Dr. Thompson, why are you being so Gandhi-like about this? I don't mind point the finger. If they didn't do it, they didn't do it. This ain't no let them slide number.
Well,
And
definitely not let them slide. But my
yeah,
whole thing is that it's easy to point the finger at a couple of folks, but then don't look at the things that we could have all done.
well, we point both. You got
Yeah.
1 and 4 pointing back.
Yeah.
So we show that the elected people didn't do what they could have done, and we've already saw that with footnote 7, how we were sold out in terms of what happened. So that's a fact. It's not make-believe. There are documents to show the deals that were made, and people have acquired them. So that part is real, very real. Right? Even right now, as I understand, the 4th District Council member chairs the Budget Committee. We talked about this on Black Men and Women United yesterday morning. Like, when are we going to start bringing the budget to the community so that we can get a head start on the things we need to look at? We don't have to wait until recreation is being closed, libraries are being closed. Yeah. Right now, we're ending the fiscal year with a $6 million deficit. We got a projected deficit for the coming fiscal year of $105.6 million.
Yeah.
So here we go again, and it's growing, and
Yeah.
we're not doing what we need to.
Well, and I think, and the reason I'm always saying this is because I do hear some of the conversations of budget discussions in communities and things of that nature. It is that if we're going, if we've read, if we're participating in them. So I think that there are some opportunities, but we can't just wait for opportunities to come. We have to seize the opportunities ourselves and be self-motivated to find more out about the budget and what's going to really impact our neighborhoods and our community.
Well, we know this year we have the even city council seats up. And I keep telling us every chance I get, it's not just about District 4,
Yeah.
2, 4, 6, and 8. You need 5 votes to make a change in terms of the city council. You need to be studying who's leaving, termed out, who is running in those districts, who can we support in those districts to make a difference. This is how we got to where we are with Trump. And I have an editorial this week that talks about protests, and the title is Protests Without Votes. Is almost meaningless, because Trump and all of his, they don't care how many millions of people demonstrate. All they care about is, can they control the ballots, which they're trying to steal, so they can copy names and rearrange. And, you know, Trump's got this idea in his head. I don't know if he's listening to Stephen Miller or who, but he thinks that Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution gives him the right to try to move toward national voter elections. And that's not what it says, okay? And so fortunately, we got enough smart people that are challenging this foolishness at every turn. But I commented last week on the fact that we could learn a lot from the people of Minnesota. They didn't let the weather stand in the way of them getting out there and taking a position, even though they were being shot and killed and all kinds of stuff was happening, pulled out of cars, and half of the stories still haven't been told. They were being told yesterday when people were brought before this congressional committee to talk about Homeland Security and the treatment by ICE people. And the very committee had not one Republican show up because they didn't think it was important. Well, and so we've got to get up and get involved, Dr. Thompson.
Well, you know, one of the things that's very funny to me is that we always talk about budget and not having enough for this and not having enough for that. My question is how is all of this truly being funded? Now the National Guard is supposed to have body cams. How are those being funded? They're not being loaned. They're being bought. How is that being funded? And how are we consistently going from here? We were over in Venezuela with a whole battle group. Now we're over in Iraq with a whole battle group. All of that's money. And my thing is, where's the money coming from, and what is it being taken away from to keep funding all these personal things?
Well, you know what the money is coming from. Is being taken away from child care, is being taken away from the whole idea of health care, and that the difference in terms of affordable health care, what could work, is being taken away from existing programs, from Health and Human Services, from studies, from universities that are losing money with their grants because they're not dancing to the tune that Trump wants. And Trump doesn't have the authority to do what he's doing in terms of rearranging and taking funds away he's doing. But we have a dysfunctional House of Representatives which has an oversight responsibility according to the Constitution. And that's why I keep stressing we need to look at every congressional district that a Republican is sitting in Congress from and find a person to run in that district and fund that person with the understanding that they are going to be instrumental in revoking this stuff, impeaching the necessary folks that need to be impeached. Okay? Because the Homeland Security director needs to be impeached. The Attorney General needs to be removed in terms of what's going on there. The authority clear doesn't exist. What's his name? Robert Kennedy Jr. should be pulled out of office based on what he's doing to health care in this country. Yeah. And Trump should be impeached when you look at that he has taken money from USAID. They let foods that people need go to waste rather than even giving them to the NGOs that would have used them. And now we are about to play a role in dismantling the United Nations because Trump has said he's not going to pay any dues to the United Nations. He's not going to pay any dues to NATO. And the only thing that's getting his attention is there is a gentleman who's a billionaire who gave over $100 million to the Trump campaign, and he is now raising questions about the extent to which they're messing with the Federal Reserve and seeking to the fact that that family, in the first year, Trump's family has made almost $4 billion just blatantly and openly accepting gifts, making deals, ignoring the emolument clause, which speaks against gifts. There was no way he was supposed to have accepted that airplane. And he's lying about, well, they're going to redo the plane, just like they're going to rebuild, the East Wing to the White House and all of these grandiose things that he has in mind. And he's just spending. And if long as the director of the Office of Management and Budget is in his hip pocket, the Secretary of the Treasury is in his hip pocket, the Attorney General is in his hip pocket, the Republican leadership of the Congress is in his hip pocket. He has everything right now. The Supreme Court is in his hip pocket. So he's got all of the elements. Never before in the history of this country has one person pull all of this stuff together in such a way that they have become a clear and present danger in terms of democracy.
Yeah. And the question comes in is, when is enough enough? You have all these elected officials. You have all these branches of government. You have all these supposed to be safeguards. But it seems like he is able to get around every single thing, and no one is stopping him. And almost, I would say that the Democrats seem like they're absolutely afraid to even move.
The Democrats are a wet noodle. You know, it's tragic because they could do so much more than just make grand speeches, but they're not. And the Democratic Party has taken the black vote for granted, and every election they do it over and over and over again. It's projected they're going to do it in 2026. They don't put the dollars into our communities that they put in other communities to get the vote, and they cherry pick us. So they don't spend money in California because they figure we won't have to worry about California. But we're going to spend the money in Florida. We're going to spend the money in South Carolina. We're going to spend the money, in New York. We're going to spend the money in all of these places that have Georgia, that have large black populations, and we're not going to worry about the rest. And I, as chairman of all of our papers, I'm in the process of trying to engage in conversation with the heads of the Democratic Party. Like, really, are we going to go through this again? Because as much as people are protesting, we could mess around and have Trump's people retain control of the House of Representatives.
And I think what the Democratic Party has to understand is that the black press, no matter if it does say the black press, it is being read by multicultural groups of people, and they're getting great information. And so it is a viable source from black radio to black newspapers to black media. And the mistake that they do is they, one, take it for granted and then overlook it. And anytime that you overlook a powerful source, eventually that powerful source will then turn on you and bless someone else with it. And it almost seems like what's happening right now is the independent party is becoming the party of choice of the disgruntled and people that are fed up with both parties.
Well, it has been for a very long time. In California, there are more independents registered than Republicans. And so they are the party. And the idea is that the Democratic Party has to break through and massage the independent vote to bring it over to it, because people are tired of both parties.
Yeah.
They really are. I've been a Democrat and held office as a Democrat and done stuff, but I think the Democratic Party, I'm embarrassed by it every time they get in power. Even with Kamala Harris, she comes from California. She raised $1 billion, and she did not want to spend any money hardly without black papers to get the black community, because she was assuming that she already had us in the bag, and therefore she didn't have to do anything. And that is a recurring issue that we have. If we don't put the dollars to reach our community, we understand dollars for everything else. Corporate America understands marketing campaigns. And I continue to say that there are only three things that corporate America is afraid of. Only three, no matter who you look at in terms of the stock market or whoever it is. They are afraid of lost profits, okay, bad publicity, and votes cast against their interests. Those are the only three things they care about.
Yeah.
And Trump, even the little maneuvering he's doing, because pressure was coming on him about trying to buy Greenland and messing with the Federal Reserve, the money people were saying, oh, no, because it was impacting the stock market. That's the only thing that got his attention. He does not care about America, about protests, about what's right, what's wrong. He does not care. Even after he was told that Renee Good's father had been a supporter of his reaction was not, I'm sorry about the loss of your daughter. His reaction was, does he still support me? Really? Yeah. It is always, like his niece said, it's always at all times all about him. And I blame us for letting the devil rule and not standing up. Thank God that every week now in this country, and we got to say this, people are mobilizing and protesting. And on March 28th, is supposed to be the biggest protest of No King's Day ever, which is so significant. But what I'm seeing as I look at the numbers of people that are lining up in cities across the country, there's an absence of African Americans. Yeah. And a lot of us are talking about we're going to sit it out because they didn't get involved in Black Lives Matter. That's not true. It's every time I looked at Black Lives Matter issues, especially during the pandemic, it was white folks that were out there, young whites that were on the firing line, always. And so here we have an issue that we're impacted by, and we're going to have a grudge because y'all didn't march with us the way, so I don't care. Don't care and see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, my philosophy is that we're stronger together, and to be able to go up against a tyranny, the tyranny of Donald Trump, we're going to have to come together. We're going to have to lay aside, like they say, every weight that so easily beset us, and we're going to press towards the mark. The mark is to try to balance the balance of power, and make sure that we just don't have a rubber stamp. Because again, I've never seen a president in my life just randomly change names. Well, Kennedy Center now is going to be Trump Center. And before you know it, with no congressional movement or anything else, they're putting his name up and taking things down. And my whole thing is, how is Congress allowing that to take place? Because he's basically saying that you have no power. You're not going to stop me. I'm going to continue to do it. But we're going to change the Department of Defense to Department of War. So he's literally telling the American public that he wants to go to war. And so he wants to change everything, and the Congress is saying nothing.
Trump's model is Putin and all of those despots in various parts of the country who are ruling from an authoritarian standpoint. And his goal is to try to take America to that point so that he can either be in power forever or he can control it. Now, there was a time about 30 years ago when Putin, and I might have the time frame wrong, but I remember when Putin was elected and he termed out. And when Putin turned out in Russia, what he did was he had his vice run, and the vice stood, but he controlled the vice until he could run again, because he couldn't run a consecutive time, but he could run again. By the time he got a chance to run again, he had changed everything, and that's why he's still in power today, and it's not happening. And that's Trump's attitude. Trump's attitude when he came back, this is just year one, and he came back from the standpoint, I'm going to wrap it up so that it's all about me. There is no authority, and the people are in court challenging for the FBI going into Georgia and taking all those voting records. And when the judge in Georgia would not sign the search warrant, they went to Idaho or Utah someplace to get somebody who was one of his lackeys to do so. And so everything he does, we need to challenge. I like what the governor of Illinois says. He says, we building a record. And the same thing in Minnesota. We documenting everything because this is not going to last. And when this is over, we coming for them because there's no statute of limitation on the laws that they are breaking and the things that they're doing. And they're all going to be held accountable. And so they are like Netanyahu in Israel. Netanyahu is going to continue to find an excuse to keep a military presence in Gaza no matter what happens, because his latest statement is, I'm not going to let the rebuilding of Gaza take place until it's demilitarized. Well, it's never going to be demilitarized because the moment that it's demilitarized, he's going to jail. And what he's done is pattern himself after Greek and Romans who, what Caesar did was, under Roman law, as long as Caesar had a war to declare, then martial law was implemented. The power of the Senate was suspended for 6 months, and he made sure that he kept a war so he could be in absolute control. And here we have history repeating itself. And of course, we got a generation today that read what? I don't read anything. If it ain't on social media and I can't thumb it, I don't read it. And so we're missing what's being done to us because we don't take the time.
And we're not really paying attention to what's going on in Israel or the Gaza Strip now. We're not paying attention to what's happening over with Russia and the Ukraine. We're just past it now. Iceland is an afterthought. Nobody's talking about that. Now they're talking about going over there, and now he's picking a fight with the Iranians. He'd already feel like he won over there and already acquired the land over in Venezuela. So my question is, what's next?
Mm-hmm. Well, the Ayatollah, I remember when they came to power in 1979, and they've been in power all these years, okay? And we have no idea of how many people have been killed in Iran based on this revolt that's occurred. But we do know that America has an interest in the revolt being successful, because if they knock that down, it'll be a domino effect in the Middle East, all right? They're not going to let that happen. And Iran is rattling its saber. It reminds me of Saddam Hussein, who talking about it's going to be the mother of all conflicts. They just launched a drone toward one of our aircraft carriers today or yesterday, and we shot it down. And we got such a military presence over there that when we do hit them this time, it ain't going to be a chance to hardly regroup, because they already said they're coming for all of our military installations. And so all of this takes America's attention off of affordable care.
Yeah.
It takes us away from looking at all the high-powered people that are involved in those millions of documents and photos for the Epstein, and the fact that those files have not been turned over as they were supposed to, because the attitude in the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi's attitude is, like Trump, I can do what I want to do, and the hell with you and what you think. But she is going to end up going to jail because when it's all over and they're out of office, they're coming for her. And I don't know. And Stephen Miller, I don't know on what grounds they're going to get him, but he is totally insane. And they got to figure out how these people. So, yeah, we know what's been done. And I think America will be stronger for it because when we come through it, we will never allow ourselves to be put in this position again.
Well, the question is that I think they believe strongly that they're going to be able to get J.D. Vance in, and with J.D. Vance could then step down and make Donald Trump president again.
J.D. Vance can't get in and step down and make Trump president. That dog won't hunt. And J.D. Vance is going to be impeached himself when it's over. Now, he going to run for president, but he is not presidential material. He doesn't have the money. Trump's money is his leverage because people respect money and they think because he's a billionaire and he was poor maybe when he came and he owed all that money to the lady from the lawsuit in New York, but they have more than made up for it in terms of what they've gotten so far. Even Melania's documentary deal brought millions to her from Netflix or HBO, whichever one it was, or maybe it was Prime, I think, that the money came in. So we can look at that, but let's not lose track of the fact that people can't pay their rent, all right? Food prices are still going up. You almost can't go in a store without spending $100, and where are you going to get the money? You can't afford your medication if you need it. So now you got to choose between medicine and eating. You got to choose between medicine and paying your rent. Your utilities are up. City of San Diego is killing people. Water rates are going up. Trash fees are going to go up. Who can afford to go to Balboa Park if you live here? You can't afford to go to the park. And the park is going to, San Diego is a tourist destination for now, but it's going to kill the tourists who come here with the kind of fees that they have. Yeah. It's almost like in New Jersey, Atlantic City, where the casinos are. I remember I had to fly there once to give a speech, and I flew in. I got an Uber from Newark to Atlantic City. The people paid for it. I checked in my room. I changed clothes. I made my panel presentation. I went back. I changed clothes. I got in my Uber to go back to the airport. This is all in the same day. And it cost me something like a $50 or $60 tourism tax.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in the room an hour.
Yeah.
In terms of just having a place to change.
Yeah.
Okay? And so this is what's happening to San Diego. They keep raising these prices, and pretty soon people are going to stop coming. And right now, this is the season. The airfares coming to San Diego from anywhere right now are up through the roof because everybody else is in a cold freeze, and we walk around 80 degrees hot, and people want to come and be here. And you can't hardly find a flight to get you into San Diego that's not booked to the max.
Yeah.
And everybody is, they crying, but they going to the bank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, Dr. Warren, let's take the last few minutes to talk about the upcoming Voice and Viewpoint, the edition that's coming out this week, as well as the gala that's coming up.
Well, you're certainly right, and the gala is coming up next Friday. It is virtually sold out at this point. I think there are a few seats left. The session that's advertised with Freeway Ricky Ross is important because some people will probably wonder, well, why are you bringing this former drug dealer in to have a conversation? But his very presence is an indication of how the paper has been influential in the past in terms of impacting lives and news. We were the first black paper to carry the story about the Iran-Contra drug deal in L.A., which he was a part of. And it was Dick Gregory that asked us to interact and visit him because he knew that threats were being made on his life because the government had lied in order to get a conviction. And so we made frequent visitations with him in the federal facility downtown, Jerry and I. And what happened was that Mr. Ross he is so brilliant. He got rid of all of his lawyers. He appealed his case. He got the case thrown out. He proved that the feds had promised people green cards as a condition of testifying against him. Then he had probation. He got the probation removed, so he has been a best-selling author. He's done a documentary, and he's still moving and doing things, and he's coming back to San Diego because of the help that we were to him. And he is just one example of, in the 66 years of our publication, now in the 199th year of the Black Press, we are still changing lives and making a difference.
Yeah. Very, very powerful conversation. Looking forward to that as a part of the gala. The gala is going to be second to none. We're honoring some amazing people, amazing organizations. The food is going to be great. The atmosphere is going to be great. And overall, it is a place to be where we say where Black excellence is on display in an all-new way.
It is a place to be. We're honoring a couple of pastors. We're honoring some Greeks who've done outstanding things in the community. We're honoring a dear lady, Sister Margaret Terrell, who is getting the Jury One Humanitarian Award. And she's been at Calvary over 70-some years and touched so many lives and done so much in terms of people. We're honoring Coach Dunn in terms of his outstanding record at Lincoln. And so we're just moving in a mighty way in terms of recognizing people. And when we recognize people, we don't give them a piece of glass. We give them meaningful awards that they can be proud of and retain, and it's a part of what we're doing. I will say this is on a Friday instead of a Saturday, so since a number of people, like our sponsors, are coming from work, I'm relaxing the black tie issue, but the men coming into the event must have tie on. They must be dressed. This is not a happy hour where you just gonna come in your shirt collar open like you showing up for drinks. If you do, I'm not gonna let you in or have somebody put you out. And I'm not worried about the money. It's the principle that we have to respect ourselves. And if we don't respect ourselves, then how can we expect others to respect us?
Yeah, one of the things that we just, as we move forward, is just really setting a precedent. You know, there are so many galas that do come around, so many different things. If you go to certain areas and they say black tie only, and then you can't fuss with them because they've told you ahead of time it's black tie only. You go to a restaurant, you must have a jacket on. You know, one of the restaurants said, well, look, we know that everybody might not see that notice, so we have jackets that you can rent. You know what I'm saying? And they'll make maybe that's what we might do. We might have a tie rack out there and a black jacket. It'd be like, say, oh, you can rent it over here.
Well,
that would be funny.
We won't deny you that business venture if you want to do it, okay? But we want people to really step up and understand the importance of us honoring ourselves, and that's so crucial. That we have our own self-respect, and we can't be hollering about how other people treat us when we don't do the same ourselves. It's just it doesn't work. So I think it's going to be a very classy and great event. Don't do the superstition thing because it's Friday the 13th. We as black people, we're not superstitious. I love to have a black cat cross my path rather than a white one. But let's just throw all of the excuses out the window and be about Black History Month and celebrating ourselves and each other and helping us go forward. And this is a very important event for the paper. As you might have noticed today, the Washington Post fired hundreds of people, and it's owned by Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon. And so newspapers are under attack, and black journalism, as you saw what happened with Don Lemon and with Gloria Fort, black journalists are under special attack in terms of arrest and trying to stop and intimidate and frighten us. We are only as good as your support, folks. And if you don't do like the people of Minnesota and speak up and stand up, then they'll get away with it.
Every time.
And just salute Minnesota because they ain't letting the weather stand in the way of anything.
Yeah. And one of the things about it is that you brought up Don Lemons, and that was just something that was just unbelievable, almost like he was a marked man by the president.
He was a marked man. The president's always been mad with him. He's always talked about the president and the things that he did in terms of being in the meetings. You know, they tried to come up with 20-some allegations, but he was there covering what was happening. He wasn't orchestrating.
Yeah.
He was covering. And so we need to just let's take lessons from Minnesota. Minnesota is raising rent money for its immigrant population. They are passing a rent moratorium because people can't go to work out of fear of ICE grabbing them. And even though today it was announced that 700 agents are being pulled out of there, they still had 3,000, so it's still 2,300 or so, or at least 2,000 still left.
Yes.
Looking to round up people. And the governor begged the president to stop going into the schools because if they grab the kids, they're using the kids as bait to get the parents.
Exactly.
Okay, and I'm just so impressed across the country with all of the blockage to every city that they've gone in trying to buy a facility to convert it to a prison. The people have rose up with their local laws and ordinances and blocked it. And they put pressure on the businesses that own it. And if you do business with them, we're gonna cut you off.
Yeah.
So I think let's keep the pressure on.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key thing. Is about keeping the pressure on and staying focused.
Right.
Well, Dr. Warren, I tell you, it's been a great show. Want to thank you for the many things that you have shared with the people. Again, the Voice of Viewpoint Gala is this next Friday, the 13th. Tickets are almost sold out, or are we sold out?
They are close to being sold out. They will probably be, the cutoff is this Friday the 6th, and it'll be over. You and I will not be here next Wednesday.
Yes.
We have events that are taking place that will preempt the program. And so we won't talk to you again until after the gala. But let me just say quickly, the gala. You know, you see people, every chicken dinner is not a gala. And 12 years ago, we held the first gala, which was a dressy, first-class event with entertainment, with dancing, and formal attire. That's a gala. Everybody's chicken dinner is not a gala. And so the term gets misused, and we just kind of fall for it, and we get out of whack with it. But there was a time in San Diego that we didn't have more than one big black event at a time.
Exactly.
On a weekend, if one group was having something, then somebody else picked another time. Now, nobody talks to the other person. Everybody thinks their stuff is more important than anyone else's, and they don't care about the time or the impact on the community. And that's something we've got to get back to if we're going to make a difference.
Most definitely. Well, we want to thank everybody for listening from the desk of the editor. We won't be back here next week, but we will be here the week following. So stay tuned. Make sure that you follow and download the Voice and Viewpoint app as well as GOD Radio app, and continue to support black media in this time, this season. Y'all be blessed. Have a great night.